Even though the title of this video is finna be something mean about Euphoria, I just want to say I sometimes kinda enjoy watching Euphoria. Euphoria has a great cast, some great acting, a great production, and I don't want to pretend everything about this show is bad because it's not. Last year, I decided I was over the Euphoria hype train and I was kinda over watching this show and didn't really want to watch it ever again. But it's a new year and I'm feeling optimistic. So I went back and rewatched both seasons of Euphoria, and I determined one single reoccurring issue I had with this show. But before I mention my issues with this show, I feel like it's fair to mention other people's complaints regarding Euphoria. A lot of folks out there have a serious problem with the fact that this is a show about teenagers doing some taboo shit, like sending nudes, doing drugs, heavy drugs, or having sex with older men, or even having sex with older men while they're recording without consent.
Hey, that's fucked up.
I was one of those people who previously believed that this is a TVMA rated show. Stop being so sensitive, who cares?
Pussy. Brenda!
But after rewatching the show completely sober, I do think that there are some unnecessary moments that serve no purpose other than to be controversial.
I'm not Googling child pornography.
But also, I'd assume that if you don't like these things, you probably wouldn't watch the show past the first few episodes anyway. So moving on. A huge problem I've had with Euphoria for a long ass minute is the writing and direction of some of the characters, which I've talked about before in this video, but I do warn you, the audio is pretty bad. Then there's a whole nother dilemma I've noticed about this show. The high school. It doesn't feel like these characters are attending a high school. I never see teachers really getting involved in situations or try to establish any sort of order. And I can give you hella examples to back this point up.
Example of scene 1.
When Rue's in class, a teacher asked her about her favorite moment from this past summer. Since Rue is in rehab for the majority of the summer, she has no real positive memories. So she runs out of the class without telling anybody. In college, you could definitely walk out of class no problem. But in high school,
no.
She's just fat and doesn't want to exercise.
either the teacher agrees with this statement or he literally doesn't give a fuck about his job. Number 3. Those last two examples were kind of just like nitpicky, but this next example is actually crazy. Maddie passes out in class and has choke marks around her neck. This is from an altercation that happened between Maddie and Nate at a carnival in episode 4. Naturally, everyone, including the principal, thinks that Nate did this, but rather than just calling Nate to the principal's office, Principal Hayes decides, alright, let me call every student who potentially went to the carnival and asks them what they saw that night. Usually most schools would try their hardest to de-escalate a situation and get as little people as involved in a scandal as possible. But in this instance, they might as well just announce on the fucking loudspeaker that Maddie was abused by Nate. Oh, and of course, nothing comes from the storyline because there's like 3 other plots intertwined with this one. In general, the theme of this show is crazy stuff happens, main characters have to navigate around these crazy problems, and then boom, more crazy stuff happens. And that's when it fucking hit me. Like Brandon Graham on Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. Go Eagles. The main problem in Euphoria is there's too many plots and there's not enough time. Now, because there's too many plots and not enough time, that means that a lot of these characters don't really get affected by anything that happens to them.
Anything?
Now, when I say that they don't get affected, I don't mean that there's never moments when these characters are shown to be vulnerable for a second. But that's the thing. Usually there's these moments in the show, right? When it feels like us as the viewer are supposed to feel something. Whether that's sadness, anger, intensity. And a lot of the times, these moments are rushed through or ignored because there's another plot that needs to be focused on. And rather than just tell you about these problems, let me just fucking show you. I'm gonna start with Kat since she has a pretty traumatic event that happens to her in like the first few episodes of the show. So at the end of the first episode of Euphoria, Kat loses her virginity to this McLovin looking ass nigga. And at the end of the next episode, she finds out that he released a sex tape to Pornhub. Of course she's shook by this because she didn't know that he recorded her, and also because everybody at the school knows, at least based on this scene where everyone's staring at her. And yeah, Kat's like embarrassed for a few minutes, but literally all it takes for this rumor to end is the twins who originally spread the rumor, these guys, They go around the school telling everybody that they lied about Kat being in the video. It was some other chick. No, like literally that's it. No one even second guesses that Kat could still potentially be in the video. It also takes a full week before the rumor reaches a teacher, which is bullshit, by the way, because there'd be hella snitches in high school. When Kat gets called to the principal's office, she easily gets out of this situation. Then because she sees that video has gotten 86,000 viewers, she starts doing this whole dominatrix storyline. The progression of Kat being a little shy, then turning into a dominatrix character makes sense, I guess, even though it only happened in like an episode. But who cares, because Kat is in her bad bitch era. Nate's dad has sex with a underage minor. So when Nate finds the video of Jules and Cal having sex, he threatens to blackmail Jules at the park with child pornography charges. What is good with this show's obsession with child pornography? Jules is upset about this. I know this because Rue is constantly letting us know that she's been acting different recently.
Who the fuck are you?
Who the fuck are you?
There's also that scene when Nate stares at Jules when he's arrested. However, there's never a single moment when Jules herself is actually angry about that whole situation with Nate, even though she was hyping him up the whole season as her whole boy toy, even though she didn't know it was Nate. She thought it was some guy named Tyler. Then she goes partying and drinks a lot, I guess as a cry for help. After Cassie takes, I think it was ecstasy or Molly, she's caught masturbating on a Ferris wheel. So she cries about it for one scene, and she never refers to it again for the rest of the season. It's not until Lexi's play, a whole ass season later, where Lexi recreates that scene in her school play, that Cassie is actually shown reacting to this moment. But this is more of a buildup of frustration directed towards Lexi more than anything else. Listen, I don't expect an entire episode of Cassie crying for us to understand that Cassie is going through shit. But maybe one scene of her having a heart-to-heart with Maddie or Lexi would be nice. But because she's currently dating McKay, the show decides to focus on that, and they're not doing a great job at it. McKay doesn't really claim Cassie at first because he heard some things about her, but Cassie's also cheating on McKay. Which one is worst? I'll let you decide. Then when they go to this party, Cassie and McKay are getting hot and heavy in an upstairs bedroom. Out of nowhere, some of McKay's teammates start dry humping him, but regardless, they're sexually assaulting him. McKay's embarrassed, so he goes into the bathroom, comes out many minutes later, then fucks Cassie as she looks uncomfortable. What was the purpose of this scene? Is McKay bothered by this? Maybe. I mean, I guess his dick couldn't get hard for a second there. But other than that, all he does is talk about how football is stressing him out. Cassie feels bad, though. So bad that she called up the dude Daniel and hooks up with him. And then Cassie gets pregnant, and then she has an abortion, and they break up. Why did they make that scene again? There are countless examples in this show of characters not being affected by things because they have other things going on. So there's no moment where they're able to really go through the things that they're going through. Like look at Nate after Fez kicks his ass. But no other plot perfectly displays this problem than the Rue and Laurie plot.
I'm so happy to see you.
It starts out with an intense drug deal that quickly turns bad because this one guy, I don't know his name, is mad as fuck that Custer brought all these people to a drug deal. So this guy makes everyone in the room strip to prove that they don't have a wire on them. Now, the thought of this is already uncomfortable, but the scene actually gets more uncomfortable.
You want to do Euphoria? Huh?
No.
This was like the first big thing to happen in season 2. And instead of keeping the hype train rolling for this season, this is literally Rue's reaction a couple of minutes later.
What was it? The fucking dude with the long hair and the fucking gun? What was his deal? God, and when he took me when he took me to the back?
If she doesn't care, why should I? The rest of this plot is stupid. Rue asks Laurie to sell drugs, so Laurie gives Rue an entire briefcase full of drugs. Before Laurie gives Rue the drugs, she says that she's gonna sell her into slavery if she loses all the money. Long story short, Rue does some of the drugs.
You are so dumb.
But then her mom flushes the rest down the toilet.
You are really dumb. For real.
I need you to tell me where the pills are, Mom. I need you to tell me where the suitcase is.
Eventually, Rue is drugged and is now stuck in this drug dealer's house.
How am I gonna get out of this?
Now, even though Rue is drugged and kidnapped, for some reason, she was left untied by her captives.
Why don't you just open the fucking door and go outside? Have you thought about that?
That's it for this storyline in season 2. Not only does nobody go looking for Rue after this, but Rue goes to Lexi's play, which of course means Rue isn't shown worried or concerned at all, like she was 2 episodes ago. And yeah, technically they could address this and probably should address this in season 3, but it's still stupid. And this style of writing creates a lot of problems. Wasting too many storylines too fast means that this show never has a second to slow down. And let me remind you that this show only has 8 episodes per season. And off the top of my head, I'm not even sure how many storylines there are, but I'd guess that there's at least 2 to 3 per character, which is way too much. Another problem having too many storylines creates is we start having a bunch of shitty, weak-ass characters. Characters that have no real substance because all they really do is go from problem to problem. There's a reason why so many people turn their backs on Cassie in season 2. And no, it's not because they were slut-shaming her. It's because her actions literally make no sense. No cap, it feels like Cassie changes her persona from episode to episode. In one episode, she feels bad for getting with Nate. Then she tries getting Nate's attention. Then she makes it seem like as long as she has Nate, she doesn't care for anyone. And she doesn't mind losing her friends and her family. Like, what? It would be one thing if this arc was done over the 8 episodes for this season, but no, shit happens so fast. By like episode 3, Cassie's already completely different than the way she was in episode 1. Despite not being a huge fan of the way Euphoria uses its characters, I actually think Euphoria could fix this problem in a few steps. Fix the writing. This is purposely vague because I don't really know how the fuck you could fix the writing without changing the vibe of this entire show. So when I say fix the writing, I just mean slow the pace of the show just a little bit. And instead of cramming hella stories in, why not have maybe 2 or 3 main storylines that everyone has to deal with? Maybe this could make the show flow a little bit better and actually build up relationship bonds between characters who have no real connection to each other. Wouldn't it be fun to see Lexi and Jules interact? Just an idea. Allow characters to actually suffer. Instead of rushing from storyline to storyline, actually allow these characters to suffer on screen. I already mentioned that scene with Rue in the crack house and how all the tension from that scene was drained for me. It wouldn't really matter too much if this was like a one-time occurrence, but this happens way too many times. If characters are actually allowed to feel an emotion for more than 10 minutes on screen, it might be beneficial to their story in the long run. Kill Nate. And lastly, I think they gotta kill Nate. Nate is probably the best written character on this show, and the most entertaining if you ask me. But Nate also is fucking invincible. Every time a character seems to have an edge over Nate, he's like, I got a picture of you massaging this kid's balls and I'm gonna have you arrested or something like that. Nothing phases him. And personally, I believe that if there was a huge plot on some Bryce and 13 Reasons Why type shit, and the main characters in this show plotted to kill him, season 3 could be really interesting. But yeah, that's my biggest problem with Euphoria. If you like this video, then like this video.
Don't be shy. Subscribe to that guy.